Let's talk about some NFL action, shall we? We just finished up week number 3 of the NFL, and Ryan went 8-8.
Would have been 9-7 except for that Packers-Seahawks game last night.
If there isn't a reason to get the NFL referees back on the field, I don't know what it is. But I'll tell you right now, last night would have been it.
I don't even know what to say about that. Anybody who's been listening to the media the last 24 hours knows that something big happened last night in Monday Night Football in the game, and it's still hard to even talk about. I'm not even a Packers fan, and they got robbed. I have a friend of mine who is a Packers fan. He might be suicidal today after that. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing he might be. I don't know anybody who's a Seahawks fan, and I'm glad I don't, because I may have had to punch him after the way the Seahawks handled that last night, talking about it was a great catch and everything. Come on. That was just a horrible call.
And I think if it was in reverse, I think they'd be very upset as well. So, anyways, week number 3 came and went, and some surprises where you have some teams that are 3-0. Was there any of the teams that are 3-0 that you're most surprised with?
I don't think so. I mean, I think this early in the season, you get that. And you get some teams who make a run for it, or have an easier schedule, or who are just so far off the map that teams don't really prepare for them well. So I think that's not as big a surprise. If they're 5-0, I'll be surprised. Some of these teams might, not win another game the rest of the season, but I still think the biggest shock to me is the Saints 0-3. That is a shocker. I said this last week in our podcast. I'm going to ride that one probably till week 5. Now, in my picks this week, we'll get into that a little bit later. I couldn't pick them this week. This was a loss this week for the Saints, but I expected, them to have probably it'd be at least 500 right now, or close to 500. I guess possibly 503 games under their belts. But
let's talk about this week's games, because last week is come and gone. You went 8-8. Week number 4 arrives, and we got Baltimore versus Cleveland.
And I'm going to take the Ravens. The Ravens, this should be an easy game. I know the whole mantra about not looking past the team, but I think the Browns are safe to say you could look past them. Ravens in a romp here.
All right, the Patriots, after another stunning loss last week, play the Bills.
Again, same thing. Belichick is pissed from last week when he grabbed that ref trying to get an explanation of that field goal that went over the upright, top of the upright. So I really, really think that if Belichick's going to game plan anything, it's just anything he can to blow out the Bills. And I wouldn't want to be in Buffalo's shoes, especially when they have a hurting Fred Jackson, who may play. C.J. Spiller went down last week, so they're down to the 3rd running back in Deshaun choice.
All right, so then I got the San Francisco 49ers versus the Jets.
This would be a Jets win all the way. Sorry, a 49ers win all the way. However, the 49ers lost this past week. I thought they'd win. They're traveling across country to New York, so that doesn't bode well for the 49ers, but I just think they're too good of a team still to lose to the Jets, who are a bit, let's just say they're in a bit of a turmoil, as everyone knows from the offseason.
And Revis is hurt, so they don't have the secondary that they once did. We got Carolina and Atlanta.
Atlanta's going to run this one fairly easily, I think, although this could be one of those games, again, like I mentioned earlier, about trying not to look past your opponent. Carolina is one of those sleepy teams where you could very easily pass them and then they could bite you in the ass, but the Falcons might be the best team in the league right now.
All right, Minnesota and Detroit.
I'm going to take Detroit, even though I was a little surprised by their loss to Tennessee this past week. I don't think the Vikings are that great, even though the Vikings had a nice win. I think the Lions are going to win this one.
All right, San Diego, Kansas City.
Horrible game. I don't like either one of these teams because they're in the same division as the Raiders. Chiefs look brutal, and the Chargers don't look that great. They just have way more weapons, so I'm going with the Chargers.
All right, we got the Texans versus the Titans.
Texans are looking like the best team in the league as well. At least on paper, they look that great in the earlier in the season, and they're coming out and proving it. I mean, their defense looks fantastic, which has been tough for Texans fans to watch previous years without a great offense would roll, and this defense would just let a team right back into it. But they're right up there in defense this year, so I think I'm definitely going to go with the Texans.
All right, we got the Bengals versus the Jaguars.
Bengals, I think, again, I've mentioned this before, either on a podcast or in one of my blogs. The Bengals are overshadowed quite a bit by the Ravens and the Steelers in the division. I think they're a decent team. I think they're better than the Jaguars. I'm going with the Bengals in this one.
All right, we got the Broncos and the Raiders. Your surprising Raiders takes a win last week.
Raiders, that was a great win against the Steelers, which is one of their oldest rivals, and they had some just incredible battles back in the late 70s. And so that was nice to see. I didn't expect the Raiders to put up the kind of fight they did. But they did, and I'm glad they did, because it's a W. So I'm going to pick the Raiders over the Broncos, even though Peyton now has had 2 losses, 2 bad losses, where he looked better this past week. But I think he's going to have to beat somebody soon on his arm alone.
All right, we got Miami and Arizona.
Miami's horrible. Cardinals are traveling across the country, but I think the Cardinals are just that much better, and the Dolphins are they're just not good.
RG3 and the Redskins played the Buccaneers this week.
I'm going to go with the Redskins over the Buccaneers. I like the Buccaneers. I like the way they're playing, but I also sort of am waiting for the Redskins to really hit their stride. I'm hoping it's this week against the Buccaneers where they can do some damage in that division.
All right, I'm sure here you're going to want to pick the Saints because they're playing the Packers, right?
Right, and this is what I was talking about. I
don't ride this horse. That's what it was last week.
Man, I can't. Especially after last night, I can't pick the Saints this week beat the Packers. I mean, I probably wouldn't have anyway. I would have bet this was going to be probably the game of the week previously, 3 weeks ago, but not tonight, or not this week. That's going to be the Packers all the way. I think that's going to might be a little scary.
All right, then we got the Eagles and the Giants.
I don't know what's going on in Philadelphia. There's talk of not playing Michael Vick, or the Eagles are running out of patience with Michael Vick. They don't have anybody else. Having said that, I think the Giants are better than the Eagles, and I think the Eagles are imploding again. Giants win over the Eagles.
All right, and then finally the Cowboys and the Bears.
Cowboys and the Bears. I'm going with the Bears. I think the Bears are the better team. Forte's banged up. Michael Bush looked good in replacing Forte. We'll see how Forte is this week, if he's going to be able to go. I haven't seen an update on him yet. But I'm going to pick the Bears on the Monday Nighter in Dallas.
Okay. Last week you gave us a sleeper selection. I don't know if it was sleeper as much as anything, but you said that Baltimore had a chance to take out the Patriots, and they did that. And even though you had picked the Patriots, you said the one game you're worried about was the Baltimore Ravens because they had a chance to sneak up and win that game. Do you see any team, even if you didn't pick them, who can do a similar feat this week?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Jets over the 49ers. That to me is a game where 49ers didn't look great last week, and I think the Jets might be able to sneak something out again. There's the travel across country, and if they catch the 49ers sleeping, the Jets can do that. They can beat this, even without Revis. I mean, Revis might be a rallying call now that he's gone. So I'm gonna say if I'm wrong, obviously I could be wrong in a lot of spots, but I think the Jets have a chance to send the 49ers reeling here early on.
All right, so that's week 3 in a recap, and week 4 ahead. Let's see if Ryan can continue his 500 record.
500 2 weeks in a row.
That's a really great record.
10-6 first week.
Yeah, so always 4 games above 500. Anyways, tune in. We'll be at you again with NFL next week. Week number 4 recap and week number 5 again.